Then the more stable of a company that you have, then the more scientific you can get about it, and then more specific can you be on each individual assumption and then on the whole. But kind of exactly where between art and science is, it varies by occasion, but it is a combination of the two.
It's art, I would say. In school, I learned the theory side and the kind of like the science part. That's crucial. You need to have it. But when you go to practice and when you go out there to the market, it's like you need to have the theory background, but then it becomes more of an art.
To me, on the valuation question of is it more of an art or an science, on the non-listed side, I think it's much more on the art side than on the science side. Otherwise, you just get very confused and frustrated on trying to work all those different companies or startups. It's very difficult to value them in a very coherent way because they are so different.
I tend to say that valuation is art. Right. In a sense that, of course, the availability of various tools, methods, is a very broad one. And in the end, of course, it is using all of those and building your own judgment and view on the valuation. Right. And as such, to me, that means that it is more of an art. And also in practice, I've seen many situations where different parties in a, for example, sales process might have completely different views on valuation. At the same time, of course, saying that valuation is an art, that I never accept it as an excuse for high-level analysis, sloppy analysis, etc. That of course there needs to be understanding that even though in the end it is your own judgment, in the end it needs to be based on various tools. Right. All those tools need to be applied in a correct way.
I think I'm more in Damodaran camp, that it's sort of a craft that you learn by doing and
I think it is both, but it probably depends on the case as well. Science, of course, because there are certain theories that are behind it and there are certain methodologies and so on, and to some extent it's exact. You can make the calculations right or wrong, you can make errors or not, but then again, in many questions there's no one true answer. There could be several methods, several views of things, especially what comes to the inputs of valuation, the forecast.
I see it's a bit of both, and of course you need to have a kind of the science background in terms of financial information and formulas and methodologies, what you apply. But then in terms of art, it's of course the way how you present the case and the directions you want to go and arguments you want to make. So there's always a certain element of art included in there as well.
Context is obviously far more art than science, but when you argue your points and the sensitivities and what you're looking for in your kind of argumentation, then of course you need to understand and base it on a scientific facts. So the kind of the theory is the same on both sides of the table, but of course when it comes to negotiating, then of course the art comes into the equation.